Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. My name's Martin Warwick. We're here in San Francisco, in California, in the US, at the IDF 2014. That's the Intel Developers Forum, and I'm talking with Franklin Flint, who is Telecommunications Strategy and Marketing OEM Solutions with Dell. Franklin, good to see you again.
It's great to see you.
It's been a while.
Yes.
And I'm glad you're here. Start with SDN and NFV have been the buzzwords over the past couple of years in the industry and is getting bigger and bigger. How are those two technologies transforming the networking industry?
Well, it's completely changing what the telecom industry uses to build their networks with. It's going to move them away from spending a lot of money and a lot of time making point solutions that are the hardware and the software all combined into a single solution that then has to be staged and tested and qualified and put into the network. The time to service, the time to revenue for the carriers is very long, and it doesn't allow them to compete with all the over-the-top players. It's also a very expensive business model for them. And a couple of years ago, the carriers realized that there's a lot of great technology in the IT world, especially around the cloud technology, that could be used to improve the speed and the efficiency of their own networks. And so they started talking to the companies that build the software that's running on proprietary hardware and asked them, can you make this stuff run in a cloud-like environment using standard off-the-shelf hardware or commercial off-the-shelf hardware, COTS, which is a common term in the telecom industry. And because of that, we're able now, because we're proving that it can be done, we're going to get into an environment where they can build large clouds to run their networks in, that they don't have to do really long staging exercises or long planning exercises. They can just bring up software services as quickly as they need to, as soon as they're comfortable with them. And that's going to make a huge difference for them, allow them to get much faster to service and revenue.
What do you think your customers' plans are for testing and deploying SDNNFO right now?
Well, we're still in the proof of concept phase in the industry. There's a lot of science that has to be done still. There are a lot of little gotchas and hiccups and bottlenecks in the way to get us to a truly implementable solution. But they're getting close, and we're proving that it can be done. We're now doing a few pilots and a few proof of concepts to show how it would operate in the real world. Now the next trick is to show that things can be interoperable, that they can run with multiple solutions on the same network, even federated solutions across the same hardware stacks. And that's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. At some point, we'll start seeing deployments happen. It could be in the next year, but I said that last year, so who knows?
Well, move on then, Franklin. What about Dell's SDN and NFV vision? What is it?
So one of the nice things about the whole NFE vision for the industry is that they want to move to the technologies and the capabilities that Dell has mastered over the last 7 or 8 years in the cloud space. The differences for the carrier-grade network do exist. We have to step up and meet all of those. So our vision is to take what we already know, meet the performance and the reliability and the manageability requirements of a carrier network, which is different than a data center, and then just provide the things that we do really well to the companies out there that need it. Rather than trying to invent something from ground up and start over from scratch, we're taking the great strengths that we've already developed in the industry and bringing it to the market.
Would you say that NFV and SDN have affected your product strategy and product offerings directly?
To a certain extent it has. I mean, there are some requirements around throughput and latency in the carrier space that have to be met. They're just hard physical requirements. Now, it's not a huge stretch to qualify a high-performance interface card for a server, for a standard server, but it's not something our data center guys are asking for. And so we have to go and do the little bit of extra work to bring in these super high-performance cards or zero latency cards or no-loss packet cards. 40 gigabit Ethernet is right around the corner. We're going to have that kind of stuff available. And those are the things that we've had to work on to bring to market. Likewise, we've had to work really hard on APIs and open architecture so that all of our equipment and software will work in this new environment, this new telecom environment. And that's where a lot of our research has been going.
Okay, thank you. Franklin, let's move back to your customers again for the moment. What kind of challenges are they facing when they're deploying SDN and NFV?
Well, the biggest thing for them right now is making sure that they have an open architecture that is compatible, that it's able to work across the various applications that they want to put into their networks and the services that they want to offer. That's where they get the benefit from this technology. But they have a hard requirement that the performance and the capacity be there to support the solutions that they have. Reliability is really important. And so there's a challenge right now to try to decide, do we start deploying on a proprietary system now that meets many of the requirements but isn't as open, or do we wait until the open architectures are ready for the requirements that they have in the network? That is a big question that everyone's grappling with. SLA requirements are becoming really important conversations that everyone's having. And it's going to be interesting to see what decisions get made. But I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for to solve that reliability problem while being as open as possible.
Okay, thank you. We're at the Intel Developer Forum. You collaborate with Intel on the Intel Open Network Platform, which is also called Sunrise Trail. Good name. Sounds very Western, doesn't
yes.
it? Talk us through that. What does the NFE Reference Architecture offer to begin with?
Well, it's an interesting idea. So one of the hurdles that we have to overcome when going to a standard architecture for the network is a performance and latency issue. I mean, Intel's done an amazing job of improving the performance of their products. The newly launched Xeon processors they just released are going to really move forward on those performance requirements that need to be met. But there's still some extremely low latency, extremely high throughput requirements in the industry that a standard general purpose CPU struggles with when you really push it to its limits. Well, with this new architecture, this new reference design that we've come up with, Intel has a great technology called Quick Assist and software that they call DPTK, or Data Plane Developers Kit, that allows throughput to be increased significantly on the hardware that's available. It offloads some of the IPSC and encoding and other things from the CPU that can be better processed in silicon outside of the CPU. And it allows for extremely high throughput with less CPU utilization inside the machine. So we've worked with Intel to develop a solution, along with Red Hat as well, that can be tested and worked on today so that independent software vendors and network equipment providers in the industry can start experimenting with ways to solve these these amazingly high throughput requirements and low latency requirements using standard architectures. So that portion of the network that is limited today from going to a standard architecture becomes more of a target that we can now address. And that's what we're doing with them. We're helping the ISVs get to that.
That's the upside. What about the challenges of the NFE reference architecture? What are they?
Well, among other things, there's obviously some costs to it. While it is a standard solution, you have to do special things to make it available. There's the cost of just adding the devices into it, the supporting it, the integration services that are going to have to be required to deliver a solution. There's also the issue if you're building a cloud where you're just trying to put compute nodes everywhere in the cloud and use them however you need to. Well, it's not necessary to have these acceleration tools on every single node. So now you have to have orchestrators and management tools that can recognize where the nodes are that have these acceleration tools and move the workloads that require them just to those devices in the network. And that all is being developed today, and I think we're going to have it eventually. But right now, that's the groundwork that we're laying to try to get to the point where all this stuff just interoperates and is ready to go.
I can see how you being in partnership and collaboration, Dell with Intel, will work to your mutual benefits. But what about Dell's customers? What do they get out of it?
Well, the thing about Dell's customers, which is really great, is that they also look to us to do the things that we do best. Like I said early in our conversation, we're bringing what we already do well to a market that doesn't have a lot of people doing the things that we do well. So we're going to go to our customers and they're saying, okay, we need someone that can deliver a consistent and reliable platform around the world without any change to the configuration, with support models that we can work with around the world, with cost models that make sense everywhere that we need to get our hands on it, and with consistency in the solution over the long haul. One of the things we do very well in our OEM solutions group is we can build solutions that have very little change during the life cycle of that product, even extending the life cycle of the product by a year after we launch the new stuff. That gets our customers in a situation where they don't have to spend a lot of money managing change and managing certification of change that's happening in their solutions. But it also allows them not to have to focus on all the hardware that they're using to build their solutions. We can focus on the hardware, we can focus on supporting the hardware, we can even focus on integrating the software and the hardware together, which is what Dell already does extremely well. And then they can worry about delivering the solutions that they need into their networks.
Looking to the future a bit, we're seeing phase one of NFE certainly drawing to a close. We're moving from the informative to the normative. We're seeing the way in which the concept is now at proof of concept stage, so we're moving beyond theory, and we've talked briefly about the fact there will be deployments in due course. Tell us about Dell's future plans then, next year, 18 months, whatever it may be, for both SDN and NFE.
Well, we've already done some great stuff with SDN, with our active fabric controller and the openness of our high quality switches from our former Force 10 organization that we brought in a couple of years ago. They do amazing work. They have really good SDN solutions now, most of which are already telecom ready, so they're ready to go into the carrier network and be used. The NFE stuff, there's still a lot of science that has to be done. We have to do better integration of SDN into the NFE architectures. That we're focused very heavily on. And you're going to see a lot from Dell in the coming months at various trade shows, at Dell World coming up in November. And then, of course, we have Mobile World Congress coming up in March, I guess it is, next year. You're going to see a lot of stuff from Dell in that area, so stay tuned. There'll be a lot of excitement.
Well, we'll certainly be in Barcelona, so I'll see you then, if not before. Franklin Flint, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.